Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Emma Collins had always thought she knew her parents. Robert and Linda Collins lived in a charming house with cream-colored walls and a perfectly manicured garden in a quiet suburb of Chicago. Neighbors admired them as the perfect couple, and their friends described them as loving and caring. Emma had grown up in this safe haven, surrounded by laughter, birthday parties, and happy memories. For Emma, life was simple. Her parents encouraged her to excel in school, participate in arts and sports, and told her every night how much they loved her. Sunday afternoons were spent on family walks, picnics in the park, or long discussions over dinner. Nothing seemed to disturb this perfect harmony. But that day, everything changed. A casual remark from a classmate unleashed a storm Emma had never imagined. "You look a lot like your father, but your eyes are your mother's. Are you sure they are really your parents?" At first, Emma laughed nervously. How could she doubt what she'd always known? And yet, a shiver of doubt ran down her spine. The question became embedded in her mind and impossible to shake. The childhood memories she'd thought were solid suddenly seemed strangely blurred. Why had she never thought to check her origins? Why were her parents so secretive about the details of her birth? That evening, sitting at her desk, Emma opened her computer and searched for information on DNA testing. Curiosity turned into obsession. She wanted to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. A few days later, the DNA kit arrived. The instructions were simple: a saliva sample, a little patience, and the endless wait for an answer. When the results finally arrived in her inbox, Emma felt her heart skip a beat. Her hands trembled, her eyes widened as she stared at the screen. The names on the screen didn't match Robert and Linda Collins. Her biological parents weren't the ones she'd always known. The ground seemed to shift beneath her. Everything she thought she knew about her life, her identity, her family, collapsed in an instant. A wave of betrayal, anger, and incomprehension washed over her. How could her adoptive parents have kept such a fundamental truth from her? And more importantly, why? Emma curled into herself, trying to hold back the tears that threatened to fall. The world she knew, this safe and predictable world, was now nothing more than a well-constructed lie. And deep inside her, a burning question echoed: who am I really? That simple DNA test had just changed her life forever. And what she would discover next would be beyond anything she could have imagined. Silence reigned in the living room. Emma held her trembling phone, the screen displaying the results of the DNA test she had just received. Robert sat in his usual armchair, reading a newspaper, while Linda made tea in the kitchen. Everything seemed normal, but for Emma, her world had just turned upside down. "Mom. Dad. Her voice broke, unable to finish her sentence. Robert gently put down his newspaper and looked at her worriedly. "What is it, darling? You look upset." Emma held up the phone, showing the screen. "These results, it's not possible. You're not my biological parents." Linda stopped abruptly, her hands trembling on the teapot. Robert took a deep breath, as if he knew this moment was coming a long time ago. "Emma, it's time we told you the truth," he whispered. Emma felt her heart race. "The truth? But I thought you always told me the truth. You've been lying to me my whole life?" Linda's eyes filled with tears. "We didn't mean to hurt you. We just wanted to protect you." Robert added, his voice trembling but firm, "Emma, you were adopted at birth. We loved you from the first moment. Everything we did was to give you a normal life, away from the problems and dangers your biological family was going through." Emma stepped back, unable to contain her anger and pain. "A normal life? You stole my identity. You gave me lies as souvenirs. Everything I thought I knew about myself was wrong." Linda moved closer, trying to hug her, but Emma recoiled. "Don't touch me," she screamed. "How could I have lived a lie my whole life? How could I believe in all this happiness when it was all fake?" Robert and Linda exchanged a guilty look. "We did what we thought was best for you," Robert repeated. "We loved you like our own daughter. That doesn't take away from the love we have for you." Emma felt her legs buckle and sat down on the couch, panting. "And my real family? Who are they? Why me? Why did they never claim me?" Linda looked down, unable to answer immediately. Robert spoke. "Your biological family made a very difficult decision. They thought you would be safe with us. But Emma, I know that doesn't make things any easier to understand now." Emma looked at her adoptive parents, her eyes filling with tears. "I don't know if I can forgive you. But I have to know. I have to know the truth about myself, about who I really am." Silence fell over the room. Robert and Linda knew they had just opened a door they could never close. Emma had just begun a journey that would change her life, a path strewn with secrets, revelations, and truths no family would want to reveal so soon. And in his mind, only one thought burned: I have to find my real family, no matter the cost. The next morning, Emma woke with a newfound determination. The anger and confusion of the night before had melted into a single obsession, to discover who she really was. With her backpack already packed, she left the house before her adoptive parents could stop her. She went to the public library, a place where she knew she could access public records and databases on births and adoptions. Sitting at a table with her laptop open in front of her, she began searching. The first information was scant: a birth certificate with a name she'd never heard of, a hospital she'd never been told about. Every line she read raised more questions than answers. Who were these people listed on the document? Why had no one ever told her about them? Emma felt a ball of tension rise in her chest. The papers seemed to tell a normal story, but something was off. The dates, places, and even the names seemed fragmented, as if someone had intentionally covered their tracks. She jotted down every detail in a notebook: dates, names, places. Everything had to be organized, every clue potentially crucial. Then she went to the hospital where she was born. The reception was cold, impersonal. A secretary, after checking her identity and documents, finally agreed to give her some basic information. "Your file is incomplete," she said neutrally. "Some information has been removed or archived for confidentiality reasons." Emma felt a pang of frustration. Removed? Why? "I need to know who my biological parents are." The secretary shook her head. "I can't disclose more without a court order or proof that you are of legal age and authorized to access this information." Refusing to give up, Emma returned home, determined to continue her investigation by any means necessary. She began contacting adoption agencies, birth registries, and even specialized online forums. Gradually, one name kept coming up: Thompson. That simple word awakened something in her. Thompson, she'd heard it before, but where? She searched through her childhood memories, through old photos, and finally found an old album that her adoptive parents had forgotten to put away. Among the family photos, a snapshot of a woman with a sweet smile, holding a baby. Emma recognized the features immediately: it was her baby. And that woman in the photo, it was Claire Thompson. Her name came from that woman. Emma felt her heart race. This was no coincidence. Claire Thompson might have been her biological mother. But why had she abandoned such a lovely child? And why had no one ever mentioned her? With this new lead, Emma knew her quest was only just beginning. She was determined to meet Claire, to get answers, and to understand why her entire life had been built on a lie. Each step brought her closer to a truth she wasn't sure she wanted to hear, but one she needed to know to finally find herself. And deep inside her, a persistent thought pushed her: no matter what I find out, I have to know the truth, even if it breaks me. Emma hadn't slept all night. Her mind kept turning to a single name: Claire Thompson. After hours of searching, she'd finally found the woman's address, a modest apartment in an artistic neighborhood of Chicago. Emma felt her hands tremble as she knocked on the door. Her heart was pounding. The door opened slowly. A woman in her 40s with slightly curly brown hair and deep green eyes looked at her suspiciously. Yes? She asked, her voice betraying accumulated fatigue and suspicion. Emma took a deep breath. Hello, my name is Emma Collins. I think you're my biological mother. The woman's face froze. Her eyes widened, and she took a step back. What? How dare you? Her voice trembled between anger and panic. You must be mistaken. Emma felt a sharp pain in her chest. No. I'm not mistaken. I found the documents, the photos. I know I'm your daughter. Claire Thompson looked away, her hands nervously gripping the doorknob. You don't understand. I've never willingly abandoned a child. Emma frowned. Then why did you give me away to strangers? Why hide me? Why all the lying? Claire stepped back, hesitantly letting Emma in. It's complicated. I was young, naive, and there were circumstances I couldn't control. I thought I was protecting you. Emma felt anger and sadness mix in an uncontrollable torrent. Protect me? You stole my life. I grew up believing Robert and Linda were my parents, but they weren't. Claire sat down with tears in her eyes and whispered, Emma, if you only knew everything, if you only knew the dangers you would have run. Emma shook her head, emotions overwhelming her. I want answers, Claire. I want to know why. Who am I really? Why was my life built on a lie? A heavy silence fell. Claire seemed to be struggling with some invisible dilemma, her eyes searching for the courage to tell the truth. I can't say everything now. There are things, people, who want to keep the past buried. But Emma, I promise that one day, you'll know everything. Emma stood up, feeling that this first meeting was only the beginning. She had touched some of the truth, but the secrets remained buried, lurking in the shadows. All right, she said, her voice steady despite the tears. But I will find those answers, Claire. And I will discover everything, no matter what that entails. As Emma left the apartment, she felt a mixture of frustration and determination. One thing was clear, her quest was only just beginning. Claire Thompson wasn't just her biological mother, she was the key to a past that could change her entire life. And in his mind, only one thought burned, I must know the truth, even if it's darker than anything I imagine. After her tense meeting with Claire Thompson, Emma returned home with a mixture of frustration, anger, and burning curiosity. The answers she sought were within reach, but Claire's words, there are things, people, who want the past to stay buried, resonated like a warning. Determined to understand, Emma decided to dig deeper. She returned to the local library and spent hours poring over local archives, birth records, and old newspapers. There, she made an unexpected discovery, a series of old letters and yellowed photographs, carefully filed in an envelope bearing the name Claire Thompson, that seemed to have been forgotten by time. The letters revealed a world Emma could never have imagined. In them, Claire wrote to a man whose name kept coming up, David Reynolds. The words spoke of family pressures, threats, and a dangerous situation that had forced her to give Emma up for adoption. Each letter exuded maternal love, but also fear, shame, and despair. One photo in particular caught Emma's attention. It showed Claire holding a baby in her arms, her gaze both gentle and anguished. On the back, a scribbled note, I'm doing this for you, Emma, so that you can have a safe life, away from the mistakes we've made. The revelations shocked Emma. Her biological mother hadn't abandoned her out of neglect or indifference, she'd been forced into it by circumstances Emma didn't yet understand. Her heart sank between anger and compassion. She'd been protected, but at what cost? Emma felt she had to dig deeper. She began contacting Claire's friends, former neighbors, and even former colleagues. Each held a fragment of the truth, but none could tell the whole story. Little by little, a complex puzzle emerged. Her biological family had been involved in sensitive matters, and Emma's safety had been threatened from the moment she was born. The young girl realized she had been living in a world of make-believe, and that every smile, every memory, every confidence from her adoptive parents now took on a new dimension. Everything she thought she knew about her origins was shrouded in mystery and dangerous secrets. Sitting on her bed, surrounded by letters and photographs, Emma took a deep breath. She knew now that her quest would not only be emotional, but also complex and potentially perilous. But one certainty burned within her: she must discover the whole truth, whatever the cost. In the darkness of her room, she whispered to herself, "I will discover everything, and I will know who I really am, even if the whole world tries to hide the truth from me." The revelations in the letters and photos had left Emma both shocked and determined. But what she discovered next exceeded all her expectations. A phone conversation with a former associate of Claire Thompson's turned her world upside down. The man, after some hesitation, confirmed that Emma's biological family was not only influential, but also involved in sensitive and controversial matters. David Reynolds, the recurring name in the letters, was her biological father, a powerful businessman, respected but feared in some circles. His position in the industry and his political influence made any public truth potentially explosive. "Emma," the man said, his voice deep and cautious, "you were protected for your own safety. Your biological father, he has enemies. People who could exploit your connection to him to get what they want." Emma felt a cold shiver run down her spine. The life she had known with Robert and Linda was nothing more than a facade of safety, a carefully constructed refuge to protect her from dangers she couldn't even imagine. Curious and worried, she continued her research and discovered clues to a hidden inheritance, financial documents, contracts, and letters referring to assets and liabilities her biological family held, but which Emma had never known about. Everything seemed to indicate that her very existence was strategic, a key element in protecting her life and preserving her family's secrets. Sitting at her desk, surrounded by piles of documents, Emma realized the complexity of her situation. Her identity wasn't simply a family mystery, it represented a direct link to a world of power, secrets, and threats. Every decision she made from then on could have major consequences, not only for her, but for those who had hidden and protected her since birth. Despite the fear, a new strength awakened within her. She understood that to rebuild herself and understand who she truly was, she had to face this reality. Emma was no longer just a teenager searching for her roots, she was the heir to a complex history, and her destiny would henceforth be shaped by this truth. As she was putting the documents away, a thought came to her. "I must understand my past so I can choose my future. No matter the obstacles, I will find the truth and embrace my legacy." For Emma, this was no longer just a personal quest, it was a path to discovering her true identity, and each step brought her closer to a revelation that would change her life forever. In the following days, Emma felt a growing tension around her. What she thought was a simple search for the truth was taking a disturbing turn. Anonymous calls, strange messages, and furtive glances on the street made her realize she wasn't alone in this quest. Someone, somewhere, was watching her every move. She realized that her biological family was not only influential, but also threatened by enemies from the past. Unresolved cases, financial disputes, and old grudges seemed to extend to her. Claire Thompson's letters now made perfect sense: protecting Emma was not a choice, but a vital necessity. One afternoon, while she was looking through new files at the municipal library, Emma received a message on her phone. "Stop your research. For your own good." Her blood ran cold. Who could possibly be sending such a warning? Fear rose within her, but she refused to give in. On the contrary, this message only strengthened her resolve. If powerful forces wanted to silence her, it was proof that she was on the right track. She decided to contact Ethan, a young lawyer she had met by chance during her research and who had shown willingness to help her. Together, they began deciphering financial documents and letters from her biological family, trying to understand the extent of the threats and potential enemies. The discoveries were shocking. Some enemies sought to exploit her connection to her biological father, others wanted to eliminate all evidence of Emma's existence to protect their own interests. Every document, every testimony, revealed a complex web of manipulation and danger. Emma realized then that her quest for the truth was no longer simply emotional or personal, she was at the center of a conflict that could have serious consequences for her and for those who had loved and protected her. Her adoptive parents, Robert and Linda, had been right to keep the truth from her all these years. Their secret had been her lifeline. Despite her fear, Emma felt an inner strength growing within her. She was no longer a naive teenager, she was now aware of the power and dangers of her origins. She knew she had to continue, but this time, with caution and strategy. Before going to bed, alone in her room, Emma whispered, "I will not back down. Even if the whole world wants to silence me. I will discover the truth and face the shadows of my past." And so, his quest entered a new phase, where courage, intelligence and determination would be his only weapons in the face of a past laden with secrets and threats. Emma felt that every step in her quest to uncover the truth brought her closer to answers, but also to danger. After teaming up with Ethan, the young lawyer with the frank gaze and keen intellect, she began to decipher her biological family's secrets more methodically. Ethan, with his legal experience and cool head, became her main ally. Yet even within this alliance, Emma sensed tensions. There were signs that people close to Ethan had their own interests tied to the Reynolds family. Every piece of information they obtained could be manipulated, every conversation could harbor a hidden agenda. Emma had to learn to distrust even the most trusted allies. One evening, after a long day of research, they worked together in Emma's living room. Ethan showed her confidential financial documents and correspondence Claire had forgotten to mention. "Emma," he said quietly, "some of the things we discover are dangerous. You have to be prepared for everything you thought you knew about your biological family to be called into question." Emma nodded, clenching her fists. "I'm ready. Even if I have to face betrayals and lies. I have to know who I am." But a few days later, a strange email arrived in her personal inbox. The information it contained appeared to be taken from the same files she and Ethan had been studying, but some details had been altered to sow confusion. Emma felt her heart sink. Ethan seemed trustworthy, but who else had access to these documents? She confronted Ethan immediately. "Are you hiding something from me?" she asked, her voice shaky but firm. Ethan raised his hands in a peace sign. "Emma, I swear I didn't do anything. But I think someone is trying to manipulate us. You're not the only target. We have to remain vigilant." Tensions rose between them, but instead of breaking their alliance, this ordeal strengthened their bond. Emma realized she needed someone by her side to navigate this dangerous world, but she had to remain cautious, even with those closest to her. As the days passed, conflicting feelings emerged. Emma found herself feeling a growing trust and affection for Ethan, while keeping her instinctive suspicion alive. She understood that in this world of secrets, love and loyalty could be weapons as powerful as betrayal and lies. As she went to bed that night, Emma thought, "I can't trust anyone completely, but I can't go it alone either. I have to learn to read between the lines, to discern the truth from the lies. And I will discover everything, no matter the obstacles." Emma's path became more complex and more dangerous, but each challenge brought her closer to the truth, and to her true identity. The weeks spent investigating had transformed Emma. What she thought was a simple quest for the truth had become a labyrinth of lies, manipulation, and closely guarded secrets. But that day, everything changed. With Ethan's help, she managed to gain temporary access to a secure safe in a former office belonging to the Reynolds family. Inside, among financial documents and contracts, was a small binder marked, "Personal, Emma." Her heart pounded as she opened it. Inside, she found irrefutable evidence, a video recording of her birth, signed by the hospital and her biological parents, as well as letters explaining the exact reasons for her adoption. The words were clear, precise, and revealed the unthinkable: Emma had not been entrusted to Robert and Linda by chance. Her life had been protected from powerful enemies, and every decision her biological family made was aimed at preserving it. She also discovered the full identities of her biological parents, David Reynolds, an influential man in finance and politics, and Claire Thompson, a talented artist forced into dangerous circumstances. Each document detailed the threats they faced and explained why Emma had to be removed, protected, and shrouded in a lie. Tears welled up in her eyes. The truth she had sought so desperately was finally there, right in front of her. But with that truth came a shattering understanding. Her life had been shaped by complex decisions, and everyone's safety depended on that secret. Emma turned to Ethan, unable to speak. He understood without her having to say a word and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Emma, you've discovered who you really are. And now you know why all this mystery existed. She breathed deeply, feeling a mixture of relief and pain. Everything was explained, but the reality was still difficult to accept. Her adoptive parents had loved her, her biological mother had protected her, and her biological father had made difficult decisions for her safety. Every facet of her life, which she thought she understood, took on a new dimension. Emma whispered, more to herself than to Ethan. Everything is clear now. But can I really forgive and accept this truth? She knew she had just reached a crucial milestone. The revelation wasn't just a relief, it was the beginning of a new phase of her life, one in which she would have to face choices, consequences, and still-buried secrets. As the sun set behind the buildings of Chicago, Emma felt a new strength within her. She was no longer just a young girl searching for her roots, she was now ready to confront her biological family, her enemies, and the truths she had long ignored. The truth is out there, and I'm ready to face it, whatever the cost. Emma felt her heart pound as she stood in front of the imposing Reynolds home. Every step toward the house seemed weighed down by the history she had just uncovered, by the secrets and lies accumulated over the years. With Ethan by her side, she took a deep breath. It was time to face the truth. The door opened to reveal David Reynolds himself, a towering man with an intimidating presence, but whose eyes betrayed a glimmer of surprise and emotion at the sight of Emma. Claire Thompson, her biological mother, stood behind him, trembling but resolute. Emma, Claire whispered, her voice a mixture of relief and fear. You came. Emma didn't answer immediately. Her gaze swept the room, taking in every detail, the family portraits, the carefully arranged mementos, but most of all, the truth she had long sought. I came because I need to know everything, she said firmly. Why I was kept away. Why everyone lied. And most of all, I need to understand who I really am. David stepped forward slowly. Emma, what you've discovered is just the tip of the iceberg. There are enemies, people who want to use your existence against us. We acted to protect you, even if it meant lying to you. Emma felt anger and pain rise within her. Protect me? You hid my life from me. You let me believe that Robert and Linda were just my parents, when everything was calculated, orchestrated. Claire stepped forward and took Emma's hand. I know, and I regret every lie. But believe me, every decision we made was for your own good. You're our daughter, Emma, and we did everything we could to ensure you survived this dangerous world. The tone changed when a discreet employee brought in documents revealing the identities of the family's enemies. These powerful and influential people had attempted to use Emma's birth to undermine David Reynolds and gain a strategic advantage. The young girl understood that her existence had been at the heart of complex and dangerous plots. Emma closed her eyes for a moment, letting the emotions wash over her. Anger, betrayal, relief, love, everything was mixed together inside her. Then she straightened, determined, I understand better now. But I won't remain passive. I want to know my place in all of this. And I want the lies to stop. David nodded, respecting her determination. Very well, Emma. From now on, you'll be part of this. You'll know everything, and you'll make your own decisions. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt a weight lifted from her shoulders. She was no longer a spectator in her own life. She was at the center of its story, able to confront secrets, enemies, and painful truths. As she left the Reynolds mansion with Ethan, Emma whispered to herself. I have found my truth, and I will no longer let anyone decide for me. The confrontation had revealed a lot, but she knew that the real rebuilding of her life was only just beginning. The weeks following the final confrontation were intense. Emma spent time with her biological parents, David and Claire, getting to know the people behind the secrets and lies. She also met the family's allies and friends, slowly uncovering the complex web that had shaped her life. Every conversation, every detail, revealed truths she could never have imagined. Despite the complexity of the revelations, Emma felt a sense of liberation. Secrets were no longer hidden in the shadows, she had faced the truth and understood the reasons behind every decision. Her bond with her adoptive parents remained intact, and she understood that the love they had given her had never diminished. With Ethan by her side, Emma began to organize her new life. She decided to combine her past and present, incorporating the parts of her biological family with which she could establish a healthy connection, while maintaining her roots with Robert and Linda. She realized that identity is not limited to biology, it is built through love, trust, and the choices we make for ourselves. Emma also chose to protect herself and prepare for the dangers that had once threatened her life. She researched family matters, learned about potential threats, and worked with Ethan to ensure her safety and that of her loved ones. She understood that knowing the truth was not only an emotional act, but also a responsibility. One day, sitting in the garden of her adoptive parents' house, Emma gazed at the sunset. Memories of pain, betrayal, and doubt now seemed to belong to a past she had overcome. She took a deep breath, feeling a newfound strength within her. "I am Emma Collins," she whispered to herself. "And I choose who I want to be. Not a secret, not a lie, but me, entirely me." The young woman knew life would continue to present challenges, but she was ready. Every step of her journey, every revelation, and every confrontation had shaped her into someone stronger, wiser, and more resolute. She had found her voice, her truth, and her identity. Emma smiled, finally feeling the peace she had been searching for her whole life. She was ready to write the next chapter of her life, a chapter she would control, where love, truth, and courage would guide her every step. The truth had changed her life, but now she held the power to choose her own destiny.